Now we are. How's everyone doing today? How is everyone doing? All right. Gonna give just a little bit of time for people to trickle in. I guess there's some discrepancy. You know what? Okay, well, good enough. I think my camera has been adjusted a little bit. All right, so we have a lot of news to cover. Sorry, I'm a little late. As usual, I'm usually a little late, but I'm later than usual this time. So there was a lot of news. I did have to go see Dune earlier this morning. And you know what? I just realized in all my hurry, I forgot to change the title of the stream. So let's go change that really quickly. Let's update the titles really quickly. Now, I had meant to do an emergency stream on Thursday, but I was not feeling well on Thursday and Friday, so I didn't do an emergency stream. I'm sorry. I'm happy it happened later in the week so we can talk about it, and it's not so far out of date at that point. But yeah, let's talk about the news that happened this week. And I think that pretty much everybody's most excited, like everything that happened this week, the most exciting thing for literally everyone, the most exciting thing. Oh, 30 minutes early. Oh, that's right. Because of the time zone, it's still off. Still 30 minutes early. How was Dune 2? I have mixed feelings about Dune 2. I have mixed feelings. You guys aren't here for my opinion. Huge fan of the books. They sit close to my Lord of the Rings books. And I think it was a good movie. I'm just not sure if it was Dune, but I think it was a good movie. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, though. Yeah. Anyways, sorry I'm late or early, I guess. Let's get into the news. Absolutely, the top of the list, what everybody has been thinking about, everybody has been, I know this is on people's minds, and I know because it's scaring them a little bit. It's caused a lot of distress in the industry for software engineers, and they're not sure what's going to happen to their jobs. But I'm here to let you know that you're probably not going to be a Laravel 11 developer. I know this is big on people's minds that it's now available, and I know this is what you guys were thinking I was going to talk about when I said it was pressing on your minds. But yes, Laravel 11's out, and a lot of developers are stressed. Are they going to have to learn PHP? Is this the future? And I'm here to tell you, you know what? It's probably not the future. You're probably fine. I'm sorry, I had to start this week out a little lighthearted for you all. Because we do have some serious stuff to cover. We do have serious stuff to cover. I do want to talk about it. I want to give you guys my perspective. I want to hear your guys' perspective as we go. I respect a lot of you. I don't know. I don't know what to do, but a little lighthearted. Laravel 11's out. Laravel 11 out. The other interesting piece of news that, I have too much to cover to go into it, but I know that I've been keeping you guys up. Voyager 1 did start sending us not nonsense again for a little bit of time. So Voyager 1 is still in trouble. But there is hope. There is hope that we can reconvene with Voyager 1. Now, it's been sending some garbage over the radios. It's been sending some garbage. I personally think it's the aliens. I know I can't say that on YouTube. I'm just joking. It's been having some troubles, but it has started communicating again back with Mother Earth. So we'll see. We'll see how much longer we can keep. To be honest, Voyager 1 is end of life. I mean, like it's going to be hard. Here further on, it's served a lot of really good, interesting data, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how much longer we can keep it going. Good job for Dane. You're going to actually be an Laravel developer. It stressed me out when I saw it. I was like, oh, goodness, it's still under development. All right, let's go through security before we talk about Devin. We're going to have a section on Devin. I'm going to do a marker. I'll cut it. I don't know if I make a YouTube video. I have a new YouTube video coming out. It's good. But I don't know if I have a YouTube video for Devin or not. But I want to talk about it with you guys, give you my thoughts on it. But before we do that, let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the slightly funny security issues that are going on right now in the world. 2024 seems to be heating up to be the security nightmare of pretty much all software engineers' dreams. I mean, nightmares, not dreams, nightmares. Healthcare providers are losing about $1 billion a day from cyber attacks at this point. So changes payment for United Health Group is still suffering from massive cyber attacks, basically rendering them unable to take payments. And it's costing providers about $1 billion a day across the United States. And this is enough to actually drag and depress the entire first quarter or earnings for the industry. So this is ongoing. This happened after the issue in France with a payment provider in France. And if we continue on, we see that the French state again was hit by cyber attacks as well. So this is continuing on as a trend. So this is not the time to skimp on your security posture. That being said, Google did release this. I'm going to actually post this for you guys to read. It's about Google's threat model for post-quantum cryptography, prioritization considerations. I think that you should all probably read up on this. The big thing here is the algorithm. So NIST has been working on standardizing quantum-safe algorithms that is going to address these things. It's probably good for us all to go over this. Maybe we do a stream about these, because I've been reading up on them. Maybe I do a stream. I'm not a pro, but I think it's important for all. Maybe I can find a pro that will be willing to do a stream with me on these. Because like I've been learning myself, but I am by far not a pro. So if I can't find a pro, I will do my best as I have learned myself. If I can find a pro, I'll do a stream with the pro. They're up to at least 2 qubits, you know? They're hoping they make babies. We don't ask how that works. It's magic. Qubit baby magic. I'm sorry. That went weird quickly. I just watched Dune. There's no way for it to not go a little weird a little quickly. Anyhow, so let me do that. I'm going to put that on my list of to-dos really quickly. I will see if I cannot find somebody that is more pro than I am. Like I'm saying, I know it at, I don't know. I've been reading up on them, and I think we should do our best. You know, like at this point, most engineers, even if you're not a security engineer, know what SSL and TLS certificates are, or TLS certificates, not really SSL, and how they work and how they function. And I think we need to be that familiar as well, at the least. Cool beats. Okay. There are both is and isn't a Q baby. Oh dear. Oh dear, what have I done? Oh, oh dear. What what t-shirt's coming out of this? Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. There was an intern. This is kind of getting to the. Actually, this was supposed to be later. Let's move this to later because that was fun. Not fun. Not fun. There was 2 security denial of service vulnerabilities for Hyper-V, as well as remote code execution for Hyper-V. So these are 2 high severity. This is an 8.1, and the previous one was I believe a 5.5. Not that's a medium, but at least the remote code execution vulnerability in Hyper-V, which is Windows hypervisor, is a very bad bug indeed. Why I'm bringing this up is if you use WSL, you're using Windows Hyper-V, whether you realize it or not. So there's a lot of you out there using Hyper-V that might not realize that you're leveraging Hyper-V. So it's important that you're up to date on this and you have the information. So go make sure that's a thing. Now I found 2 maybe humorous cyber issues. So we were going to talk about those really quickly because we do have a lot of stuff to cover. There is the intern with super user access promoted himself to CEO. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of career advice. This is probably not the move. It's maybe the move that you make if you've sat there and said that there's this security problem because you have this. But if you find yourself with too much power than you should have, the best approach is to let people know that there's a problem. And this is probably not the way to let people know that there's a problem. That's my career advice for today. All right. Inception attacks on Meta. The other kind of humorous one was these Inception attacks. So if you guys haven't seen the movie Inception, go watch it before you watch the Dune movies. They can trap users in fake VR environments. The future is here, guys. Forget AI. The future is here. I've seen this in the movies all too often. We've been warned. I'm sorry. This brought me a lot of joy, and I know that it is probably everything else, like the VMs and everything, actually do affect you guys. And I want you to be on the lookout for how you can make your enterprise and your customers' data more safe. But this I did find it's just way too humorous not to talk about. All right. So there was a lot of news in AI, but we're going to break it up. We're going to talk about Devin first. So we're going to talk about Devin. And then we're going to talk about AI as a whole. There's some stuff coming out from Twitter there about some of that happening. And just some other AI news. But we're going to talk about Devin first specifically before we talk about other machine learning stuff. And then there's actually was quite a bit in the open source and other software related news that happened this week. So like I said, we have a ton of stuff to cover. We are not going to cover classic you'd have expected that VR on April 1st. Yeah. Yes, me too. If it was April 1st, I would have as well. So we have a lot of stuff to cover. We are not going to cover the classic cloud news because the classic cloud news has I didn't see anything really big. I didn't see anything like terribly expansive there. And so we're going to kind of skirt around it for this week because, again, nothing major there. And there's just so much to cover. So we're going to talk about Devin. All of you probably know Devin at this point, and Devin is the topic we're going to talk about. Devin was released with a lot of, basically a lot of fear around developers. And I'm here to maybe help with that a little bit and give you guys my perspective on Devin. Devin is an AI, much like many of the coding AIs that we found or have today, which is geared towards beating a benchmark. Now, we hold the AI games at least once a year. We can do it again this summer if we'd like to hold the summer games. And it's where we actually test AIs against real world challenges and see how they do. We've tested a lot of AIs from Copilot and ChatGPT, who have done the best previously, to Code Whisperer, StarCoder, and all these other ones. And a lot of these, and one of the things the reasons I bring this up is a lot of these, like StarCoder, do just as well as ChatGPT in the benchmarks because you can design something for benchmarks. This is why I tell you with like performance of databases, you don't just rely on benchmarks because benchmarks are designed, or things can be designed for a benchmark. In the case of this, what they talk about when they're talking about benchmarks is this software engineering benchmark, this SWE benchmark. And it's a benchmark of finely curated things for them to do. And there's this assisted and unassisted. And you can see that the current record holder is at almost 5%. But I can tell you from using both of these that GPT-4 outdoes Cloud 2 easily in day-to-day practical use. I can tell you that Llama's not even close. The 7 billion. I haven't used the 13 billion. The Llama isn't even close to ChatGPT-4. Okay? At its measly 1.4. I have used these extensively. I haven't used Cloud 2 extensively. I have Llama and GPT-4 extensively. Okay? So, my statement is that a benchmark is a benchmark, and you can make things to pass benchmarks. You can teach kids to pass tests without actually understanding math. It's a thing that happens. Okay? So, first thing about the fear, this is a benchmark. It's a finely crafted set. They are tested on a random 25% of the data set. A couple interesting things to note here. I don't see Devin here. So if you want it to be official, you have to submit it to the SWE bench team. Now, maybe it's just caught in some legal tape. I don't know. But if I was Devin and I thought that they would accept my run, I thought that they would accept it, I would expect it to be here before I made my announcement. In fact, I would insist that we hold back our announcement until I was here. And I don't see it here. I don't know what that means. I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm saying that's a little fishy. There's also other things inside of this that I want to draw our attentions to. If you go and watch Cognition's thing, if you actually watch their YouTube video, I think I have it muted. There are things that don't make sense to me in this about Devin. There are things that you wouldn't focus on as the creator of Devin. So, Oculus, just to be clear, the SWE benchmark is an open data set. You can go get it. You 100% can just go get the entire data set. Okay? So the thing that I also want to stress is I've looked at these data sets, and unfortunately, the reason in our testing we don't use data sets, because we've actually talked about it in our AI games, the reason we don't use data sets is because they are too good at the data sets. They're too good. Every single one of them admit to using the data sets. And now what they'll do is they say, we only used half of the data set to test or to train. And then we used a quarter of it that we didn't use, but there are a lot of the same style of problems written in the same style of manner, because this was a curated list of GitHub repositories with commits fixing the problems, with tests fixing those problems. So it's very static, curated lists of real world problems. The same with all the other data sets out there. So you can absolutely, and they absolutely train their AIs to deal with this. The other thing that's a little bit weird, and I don't want to call this Google-esque, but there are things through this you don't make for your AI because you don't care. Okay, so they have this UI here. We're going to make this full screen. All right. Why does it have a web browser? Why does it have a UI of a web? This doesn't look like a real thing people are doing, just to be honest. You know how much code would have to go in this to make a browser, and then it would have to have vision? Or is it just reading the DOM? Because if it's just reading the DOM, it doesn't actually need the whole browser, right? So this is really fishy to me. To be honest, this is just really straight up fishy. This looks like a finely curated video to get hype, to get more money. I'm not saying that they don't have an AI that does some of these things. This is weird. This is just downright weird. Another weird thing is they say that it was unassisted, but the guy keeps chatting with the AI throughout the whole thing. So it's obviously assisted. It keeps answering questions about it. Another weird thing that I found that I wouldn't do if I was making an AI is, okay. Also this, don't blur your API keys out. Just go reset them. Just that's fine. You're doing a demo. It looks weird. Okay. This. They make a point of stating that it put a print statement in the code. Why does the AI need that? If your whole thing is that it can reason about the code, what does it need the print statement for? The print statement for humans is to reason about the code, right? So are they programming in the flaws of humans? Right. Why does it do printf's debugging? Is my question. If it needs that, it's not any better than we are, to be frankly honest. If you're trying to impress on me that this is good, I don't believe it. I think it's bad. Not printf debugging. I like printf debugging. This is not me attacking printf debugging, because it helps you understand what's happening without pausing the execution of an application. And that can be really good. So, I say all of this because if you are worried about Devin, if you are worried about this, they are freaking hiring software engineers. If Devin was half as good as what they thought that they had at this point, Devin would not be hiring software engineers. Cognition. Obviously, Devin can't hire. Cognition, the company that owns the technology. So I say this to alleviate some stress that people could be having. If I have seen anything from these, again, I've already, and if you don't believe me about the benchmarking, I can rerun I can do a mini summer games of the AIs. I haven't seen them progress that much, but if it would help people, I can do a summer games of the AIs and show you what I mean, where ChatGPT 4 here is way better than Llama. way better. Even though Llama scores better, in practical use, GPT-4 is better by far. Like, this is, I wouldn't even say the rules switched. I would say like this is like 10-1 better. And other people on the channel that have been around for longer can attest to this. Llama's 7 billion was not near what GPT-4 was doing. So the benchmarks just don't tell a good story. And yes, they got 12%. I think they got 12% in the assisted. 12%. True. Maybe Devin takes so much electricity it's actually cheaper to hire humans. That's a possibility. It's just cheaper to hire humans. We're more efficient. We're more efficient. One Star Coder was fantastically epic. And you know, I'm going to tell you guys the story just because it emphasizes something. When One Star Coder was first released, it scored just as well as ChatGPT 3.5, or actually a little bit better on some of these benchmarks. So One Star Coder scored pretty well on benchmarks, okay? It literally hallucinated a very spicy love story when it couldn't answer the problem. Okay? This was a while ago. To be granted. This was before GPT-4 was out. But I'm just giving you an idea of what those benchmarks mean. They don't mean as much as people give them credit for. They mean a lot to investors. If you're an investor, they probably have done something. Although if I was an investor, I would be wary because there were so many red flags in that video that I doubt a lot of things. You have a small team focused on writing an AI. Not only did you teach it to do vision to read a DOM of documentation, you taught it to use the command line and to write code and to debug code, which is, I mean, again, really cool and interesting if it works. And again, printf debugging, I think, is a bad way. To be honest, they should be able to analyze and understand the flow of code. This is an entire thing that I have a problem with is we seem to want to replicate humans when we could do better than humans. We seem to be trying to replicate humans when the awesome part about computers is that they don't have our problems. And so I don't know why we're doing so much work to replicate that. And I love machine learning. That's why we're going to learn more about it. I just think that we're missing the point. Okay. That's my Devin rant. I don't know. How are people feeling about Devin? I think if you're a junior, you have a rougher time now. I honestly think as a junior, what these tools are going to do is it's going to make senior and intermediate engineers faster and more efficient, meaning fewer are needed, which are going to mean that fewer junior engineers. Those are probably going to be the ones that get the short end of the staff because they're not usually nearly as productive as a intermediate or senior level engineer. And so when you can make those people more productive, the need for juniors, and so if you're a junior and you're just getting into the place, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult because these tools, I think, can make people more productive or are getting close to being able to really make us more productive. I actually think that Copilot's at a place where I think I'm more productive with it, probably. That's hard to judge. I'd love if we came up with a test to judge how productive I am. It's hard to judge, but I do think that it's at a point where it could be, it's a really good autocomplete. It's a really good autocomplete. Okay. So with that, let's talk about the news for machine learning. Russell, I'm with you. I'm with you I'm not sure. Like I said, I would love to be able to judge. I'd love to think of a test. Maybe an AI can come up with a test for me. Because, so this is my problem. This is my problem with a test. If I do something unknown, that's like the only way to actually test this. I have to do something I don't know how to do. And the problem with that is I have to have two things of similar difficulty that I don't know how to do. Because I have to do it once without the AI and then once with the AI, but it can't be the same thing, because if it's the same thing, I already know how to do it. But if I don't know what it is and I don't know how to do it, then how do I know that they're roughly the same difficulty and should roughly take the same amount of time? It's a hard problem. And this is why I say I think that ChatGPT / Copilot does make me more productive. But you're right, it gets in my way a lot of the time. And this is why I also don't think juniors should use it, because it's hard to know when it's leading you astray, because sometimes it lies very convincingly. Very convincingly. So anyways, I say all of that. I haven't seen an AI that does half of what a software engineer, a quarter, a tenth of what a software engineer does. At the end of the day, that software engineering benchmark is also taking tickets written by an engineer, not a project manager. That is vastly different. Part of an engineer's job is to take those tickets and understand deduce the requirements and make them into technical things and make technical decisions. Again, these AIs aren't even making technical decisions. They're solving bugs in already technically designed things. They don't even do a tenth. So they're not there yet. Again, I think that if they're not making us more productive, they're close. And I think they will make us more productive soon, if they aren't. Again, I don't know, because it's hard to judge. But anyways, I say that I want people to not fear as much. I know that there's articles. There's literally articles that say stuff like, this. I have this just as an example. New AI assistant threatens software engineering jobs. No, it didn't. This is a flat out lie. InfoWorld should scratch it. Not anything in Devin threatened anybody's job. We just 2 weeks ago looked at news. A news a research paper about how ChatGPT made your software less secure. We looked at, was it a week ago? I think it was a week ago, that another research paper that came out that said the more AI that you use, the more the more code churn that you have, and the less your software developers understood your code base. I mean, maybe that's fine. I don't think that we're in a place where that's fine, because some would argue like, oh, you don't need to know your code base if the AIs know it. Our AIs are not there. Our machine learning models are not there. 100% not there. Weeby Wizard, this is my point. AI coding assistants are going to brain rot junior developers. And if they can't replace the seniors, and they make it so we don't have any more juniors, there's going to be a staffing shortage, because juniors aren't going to be able to join the working place. There's not going to be people that go into software engineering because of that. The junior engineers aren't going to have the hard experience to become the senior engineers. And yeah, it's a bad place. Dane, I don't think senior engineers, possibly their value goes up, but yeah, again, we'll see. But I said all of this. I said all of this, and I'll reiterate it. I want you guys to not worry. And this is not because I can see the future. None of us can see the future. None of us can sit here and tell you what will happen tomorrow, what will happen in a week, what will happen in a year. I'm telling you that worrying about it isn't going to help. That's probably the end thing. Worrying about it's not going to help. I haven't seen anything in my professional career that say this is a threat today, tomorrow, or in a year. Now, in 5 years, well, we'll see. I don't know what will happen in 5 years. In 10 years, again, we'll see. I haven't seen anything that says in the next year much of anything will change, except for VC funding. VC funding is dumping tons of money into this. Staffing shortage is going to be epic for your bank balance. Oh, okay. So let's move on to the rest of AI stuff. There were some interesting developments. Now, originally, we had followed the announcement of Acorn Labs that was announced, a year and a half ago? A year and a half ago from the founders of Rancher. So the people that originally created Rancher founded Acorn Labs. They sold to SUSE and they moved on to create Acorn Labs. Acorn Labs' goal was to make deploying on Kubernetes easier. And as this week, they have dropped all of their previous things. They are no longer doing any of that, as far as I can see. Now, I would love to talk to Darren maybe if he would. I have actually wanted to do a stream. I haven't had the time on GPT script. Maybe I'll do an early morning stream on GPT script. I actually think GPT script is really cool. I think it's really cool. But all of Acorn Labs is now around GPT script, building AI-powered applications. So if you guys want to know more about GPT script, I have been planning on doing an early morning stream, I think, when I get the time. Maybe we can do it this week. GPT script is what they're pivoting their entire company around now. Acorn Labs doesn't do anything more. This is acornlabs.io. If you go to docs, it takes you to GPT script docs. They have pivoted away from everything that they did. If you go to their GitHub takes you to GPT script instead of Acorn Labs, like it used to. So that was this week. Pretty big news in my opinion. Pretty big news. It's a huge pivot, Russell. I guess maybe if people didn't know what GPT or what Acorn Labs was doing before this, it's a complete 180 for the company. It's a complete 180. All right. I have been snoozing our ad break because I didn't want it to come in front of Devin, but you know what? I'm going to let it go. So we're going to sit here and chat for those of you who are subscribers. For the rest of you, we won't carry on with the news. We'll wait for you. We'll probably just talk about this a little bit more. I guess the ads didn't actually start yet, but you know. I was actually going to look up Acorn Labs on their GitHub, their original. Did they private their original, all of their stuff? I can't find Acorn Labs. Wait. I found it. They archived all of it. They archived all of it. It's pretty big news, in my opinion. This was a huge pivot. honestly, this is, they had a, huh. Oh yeah, you have a link to that? I'll pull up the old site, Russell. I should have done that. That's actually really good. Next time this happens, I'll pull up the Internet Archives on it. That was a really good call. Yeah. Acorn build, push, run. They were kind of building a cloud, kind of like the Null cloud, actually, where it was really easy to basically make a deployment. So yeah. So will I pivot? Maybe I'll pivot. Maybe that's what I need to do. I think they're chasing this thing. I this is a complicated thing, but they have this thing called so they have these things called venture capitalists that they're chasing. It's this game, and I'm not good at the game, so I don't play the game because I'm not good at it. Because what I don't do is I don't lie and make marketing content. I mean, maybe lie. I can't verify that they lied, but this feels like a very much like a Gemini. Do you guys realize what happened with Gemini, where they released the thing and it wasn't anywhere near what they had actually made? They released amazing things, and Gemini couldn't do those amazing things. I think that this is probably this. Because if it could do this, if it could do everything that it's saying that it could do, they would have made a public beta. They would have sold it to companies. They would have done a bunch of other things. But what they're doing is they're getting venture capitalists. They're getting these people. Look, I don't have any proof they lied. So I'm not a public figure, but I don't want to be called out for slander. Slander's libels when you write it, slander's when you say it, right? I don't have any proof they lied, but my understanding is that this is marketing hype. Marketing hype that maybe walks a thin line, maybe jumps over the line. Who knows? Google jumped over the line. Did these guys walk a fine line or did they jump over it? I don't know. I don't know. But they are chasing the same thing, venture capitalists. And that's that's fine. I think that the overhyping of AIs is actually a big problem to hit our industry, because I think that it's AI hype is actually going to suck money out of actually possibly cool ventures and not give it to them. And so if all of these companies go bust in 10 years, we won't have actually made any forward progress on those cool things. I'm actually worried about that. I think Bitcoin also, like, does this not feel like Bitcoin to you guys? Does this not feel like the hype around blockchain? It feels very similar to me. And I just hate that our entire industry has become hype-driven development. Hype-driven venture capitalists. All right. All right. Ads are done. So we may progress. All right. Another hype driven development. And I'm not even sure what this is by a company I generally respect. I generally like. I'm not saying they've never made missteps. They've never done things they shouldn't have with firing. Not saying that they're perfect company, but generally they do good stuff. And every large company's made mistakes. Not defending mistakes. But I know that if I ever was in charge of a big company, I would probably make mistakes. So there's that. All right. But that being said, this seems a little weird. Not sure what it does yet, but sounds cool, right? Cloudflare announces their firewall for AI. You know it's good because it's for AI. Now, what does this mean exactly? I don't exactly know, but the idea is to build a firewall for your large language models. Again, what does that mean? I'm not entirely sure, but it's a firewall for AI, is an advanced firewall, an advanced WAF, specifically tailored for applications using large language models. Now, if you continue reading, it says the toolkit will include products that are part of a WAF, such as rate limiting and sensitive data detection, and a new protection layer, which is currently under development. So the only thing that's new in this, that's not a normal WAF, is this piece. What is this piece? This new validation analyzes the prompt submitted by the end user to identify attempts to exploit the model to extract data and other abuse attempts. Maybe that's cool. Maybe this should be built into the model. I don't know. It seems a little overhyped to call it like a new product. But that's what it is. That's what it is. It seems like an add-on, like a checkbox that you should add to your WAF. Like it seems like an option that maybe has like a penny more per 1,000 requests checkbox that says include validation of prompts submitted or something. You know, like to me, it doesn't seem like a new product, just a new feature. But we're in hype-driven development. That being said, ChatGPT creator OpenAI is under fire following an interview about Sora. No surprise, they would say nothing about where they got the data for Sora, and wouldn't say where they got the data for Sora. They wouldn't say. They would say publicly available and licensed, which doesn't actually mean much. Were they licensed or were they not licensed to use it? Or were they just saying that it had a license? Not sure. That being said, they have been able to find out that they use Shutterstock, which they were not licensed to use. So they're in kind of hot water at this point in AI news. AI on the blockchain. Okay. I don't know if last week I got the time to talk about Ragus. I feel like I did, so I'm going to be really quick. But I did talk about RAGs and what RAGs do for your application if you're creating an LLM. And Ragus is a open source framework for your retrieval augmentation generation pipelines. This is kind of a way to help sanity check your insane AI. So, you know, this is like the inner voice. You're given an inner voice to your AI. And it's pretty cool if you're trying to do RAG assessment. So, I was pretty excited about it. Go check out Ragus. I'm going to throw it in there. There you go. This week at XAI will open source Grok. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if you guys have. Actually, I should have Googled that. I did Google it when this was like yesterday, but let's see. I haven't found it actually. And Elon Musk is notorious for saying stuff. So we'll see. We'll see if Grok becomes open source. We can't grok the Grok. Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't been able to find it. He said this week, last week. I mean, Sunday is technically the new week, so I expected to be able to find it today. It could be that it's released and search engines just haven't indexed it yet or something like that. But again, I haven't seen it. So yeah. Let me know if you see it. I'll put it in the news when we find it. All right. Do you know what's more humiliating than when you have to support somebody else's code AI because your code AI sucks? So last week we talked about how JetBrains, it was kind of a blow that Copilot Chat was now available in their IDE. Their IDE that they ship with their own AI. Well, it got worse for them. Their AI was so bad that people wanted them to unbundle it. It was so bad, their AI assistant was so bad that people didn't want the extra room on their computer used, and it didn't take up that much room. I think there was also complaints about how much it updated because it made it update more. So they had to update their application more and more. But I get that it's not very good, and people are upset about this. Wait. Did Cypher bring it? Get it? Is this Grok? Is it open source? Oh, look at this. Grok 1 is here. It's 100% Python. It's a pure. You don't see ones that are 100% something, to be honest. Not very often. 3 hours. So he did lie. It happened today. This is the next week. Liar. He said this week, last week. My goodness. And asking his people to work on a weekend. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right, I'm going to post this. Oh, no, you guys already did. Cool. Awesome. All right, well, maybe we'll... The problem is I don't have the machine to run these things. Like, the problem with these language models is it wouldn't have the ability to run it locally, unfortunately. The language models are too big, require too much memory. I don't have the servers to do it yet. Hopefully one day. Okay. So anyways, if you're using JetBrains, you don't have to bundle their JetBrains assistant. A very interesting attack on language models. I found this paper to be this white paper to be very interesting. I read a lot of it. I don't think I read all of it. White papers get a little boring. I read them at night, and I get usually through like 3/4 of them. I get like here. I see pretty graphs, and then I go back up and reread the abstract, and then I'm good. Like that. Then I read the abstract and maybe the introduction again. Okay, so what these people did was basically trick AIs into telling them what they were trained on. So, you know, a lot of this is really protected from like GPT-4. And they launched attacks to get the AI models to give them what they were trained on, what weights were used for the neural networks, because that's another heavily guarded secret, is like the weights that they use for their neural networks. And they successfully did this on ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, ChatGPT 3.0, and I believe Google's Gemini, the open source one. Yeah. And they estimated for about $200 they would be able to get GPT-4. All the other ones were done with $20. So it was an interesting attack. Interesting area of vulnerability. And that was it for AI. I literally don't have anything more about AI for this week. Did you guys see anything for AI that I missed? All right, well, don't worry. We have quite a bit left to go over. Like I said, there was so much going on this week. We have software in general. Then we have some open source. There's actually some big open source news for the Kubernetes people out there. And we have actually a little bit of cloud news, not from the big clouds, but from the little clouds. That is actually really interesting that I wanted to talk about. So yeah. Is it known if it's the actual architecture? Yes, it was verified that the ChatGPT 3 was the actual architecture. I don't think that they've gotten and the Gemini was the open source version, the open model. So that one was also verified. I don't think the 3.5 turbo has been. Like I said, I read a lot of it. I can't recall exactly all the details. Some of them, yes, some of them, no. All right. So let's talk about some big software engineering news that's going to affect you. If you use this vendor, you probably already know and don't need me to tell you. If you don't use this vendor, well, the end of the free database is gone. PlanetScale forever. PlanetScale is not only reducing staff, but it is also getting rid of their free plan. Their hobby plan will be retired April 8th. You don't have a whole lot of time. They're giving you about 2 weeks. Now, this gave a lot of turbulation. And I think it's because these CEOs, and don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against Sam Lampert. I don't have anything against Sam. I don't have anything for him. I don't really know Sam. Let me put it that way. I have no vendetta against him. I don't know anything about him. But from reading this, it feels very cold. It feels very cold. Especially a lot of hobby people don't make any money off of their database, and they feel almost lied to. They've been given this free tier, and they come out with something. To put it briefly, PlanetScale's commitment to reliability and sustainability drives every decision we make. Prioritizing possibility ensures that we can continue providing mission-critical services to our users well into the future. This is fine. I really don't have a problem with it, but it comes off as very cold when you've not sold yourself this way for a while. This is MySQL. It's not Postgres. Well, it's not. It's Vitness. It's Vitness, which is a fork of MySQL. But yeah. Anyway, so I think maybe if I had to say one thing to like Sam is if you're going to do something like this, one, give a little more time. You've been supporting these free tiers for years. 4 years. Give them a little more time. 2 weeks, not enough time. 2 weeks isn't enough time. That's a feels bad, man. Don't do that. Another thing is when you're taking this away from people, you're taking a feature away from them. Don't go on a bragging streak. This doesn't, again, follow very well for the people that have written their free blog apps that they make no money on, and they architected it to use PlanetScale. it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very good. You sit here and brag and then say, eh. Our reliability, scalability, and customer service speaks for itself. The database is full of unnecessary hype. We're opting out. Our technology is proven at our largest tech companies. We do not need to give away endless amounts of free resources to keep growing. Basically, this is probably the worst take there. A lot of times they do these free things for advertising. That's true. AWS still does this for advertising. It's not for you or the developer or because they care about you. It's for advertising and to let people understand and know the technology and whatnot. And basically they're just saying, now that we're a company, we don't care about you. That's the understanding I get from this. Now that we're a company, you don't even pretend to care about us. I think if they had just deleted this sentence here, it would have gone over so much better. It's fine. You got to make money, and that's fine. But so anyways, that would be my thing to people like Sam, or of the late company that doesn't exist anymore, that decided to take away their free tier. Have a little humility from it. This caused a lot of uproar, and I honestly think that if you take this out, you would have said, take this out and give them more than 2 freaking weeks. 2 freaking weeks is nothing. MongoDB is rough. Let's just put it that way. I have never met somebody, and I'm biased. I get that. So don't trust anything that I say. MongoDB, anytime you've had somebody that has used it at scale, they will never stand behind it. I have never seen somebody that has used it in super large things that says, yeah, MongoDB is the right choice. Go find the person. If you're saying that you can use it perfectly and it will work perfectly, then yes, you are correct. But that's a difficult statement as well. You need something that's a little bit more flexible, I think. MongoDB isn't horrible. MongoDB isn't horrible, but it's also, I think personally, it feels like it's almost in the same place that K3S is for me. K3S seems awesome, but every single time I try to find a place for K3S, there's a better, like, K3S is like a jack of all trades, master of none. But when I'm looking for a solution, I'm looking for the best fit to the thing. And this is why K3S never seems like the best fitted thing. It doesn't do anything poorly. It's a cool project, but it always is in this weird state of, is that actually the right tool for the job? And it never feels like it to me. And that's the same way I feel about MongoDB. It scales easier than some things, but it doesn't scale to the same scale as other databases. It's easier to use than some things, but it's not the easiest to use. It's always in this weird middle ground. I don't know. That's... The best thing MongoDB ever did was get us to break. This is what I'm saying. Like, when you talk to people that have used MongoDB, I have never walked away from somebody that has used it a lot and been like, that's a fantastic database. I just never have seen it. I literally have never seen it. I'll say my things about MySQL, but I've also known like people to use it at like Facebook at massive scale and get things done. And so, like part of me is like, okay, it's not great. I'll say bad things about it still, but MongoDB, I don't know. It's out there. It's out there. All right. Let's talk about general software. So We got some things, some spicy things coming up in software, just some software news in general. Another little bit from Cloudflare that I think is important, especially if you guys are using Cloudflare. This is important to know. Sergeant Pepper, you've used it for 7 years. It's a fantastic database. That's awesome. Maybe you should. Maybe we should do a stream sometime together, because maybe we're all wrong. I'd be open to being incorrect. All right, let's talk about Let's Encrypt certificate change. Let's encrypt certificate chain change and how it will impact Cloudflare customers. That's hard to say. Let's Encrypt. So for a long time, Cloudflare actually had their when they issued TLS certificates, they used two different distinct certificate chains to sign them. One is this IdentiTrust, which is a very well-trusted CA, and the other is Let's Encrypt Root CA, which is their ISRG Root X1. So the important thing to know here is that later this year in September, I forget the exact day, but in September, they are switching over to just the ISRG Root 1 or X1 certificate. This is supported through a lot of people, except older, I think it's version 7 of Android. I think they're on version 14 of Android. So I think it's version 7. Yeah, 7.1.1 and older won't trust this CA. Now, it's a really old, and they did some of their own analysis. It's about 2.9%, so about 3% of all Android requests were coming from this old one, or were coming from an old enough one that would have been not trusted. And about 1.3% of all Firefox came back with an affected version. The Firefox is a bug in Firefox. So in September, let's see, September 30th, it will only be this one. So if that's you and you support really old Android devices, you might need to make a plan. So I thought it was important to call out because it's a big change. So anyways, it's important to understand that this is happening. If you're a Cloudflare customer, you should probably understand the data yourself. If you're not, live life free. You have nothing to worry about. Finally, Mozilla Firefox is bringing in tab grouping feature. So as many of you know, I haven't been using Mozilla for this news segment because it doesn't group tabs, and it's been a pain in the derriere. But as of in the future, so we're back to the future, it's going to give us tab grouping. So I'm excited to see how this happens because maybe I can go back to Firefox. I always like not using a Chromium-based one. So we'll see. Can Firefox take back the edge from Edge? We'll see. I'm excited about it. Software company HashiCorp is weighing a potential sale. That's interesting that they're looking at selling in this environment. It's interesting. Kotlin. A new release of Kotlin is coming out. I know that some of you are Kotlin devs, so I thought you probably, if you're a Kotlin dev, you probably know that this is happening. But if you're not a Kotlin dev or are just into it, the 1.6 release is out, coming out with, I know my friend who's into Kotlin. He does a lot of Android, and he really likes Kotlin. He's excited about this release, so I thought I would at least mention it. I'm not going to go over the new features because I don't follow Kotlin, but yeah. And I'm sorry, but I had to bring this up. Every single time Rust solves a JavaScript problem, you know that I have to bring it up. I can't not bring it up in the software news. Roll down is a fast Rust-based bundler for JavaScript because JavaScript needed Rust to solve its problems yet again. I don't know how many times this happens, and it makes me feel good every single time, and I have to bring it up. I'm sorry. We'll move on now. The last thing to talk about is DBoss, which is an exciting thing that I'd like to spend just a little bit of time talking about. Cypher, Kotlin is a great language as well. I absolutely agree, Cypher. I absolutely agree. I think that Kotlin, I like Rust better than Kotlin, but if I didn't have Rust, there would be Swift and Kotlin. Those would be two very interesting, especially with Kotlin native. I'm not a big JVM person, really not a big JVM person, but with Kotlin native or Swift, those two look very interesting to me. If it wasn't for Rust. Yeah, roll down has a roll up compatible API, so it's a pretty funny. For those of you just catching up, it's a fast-based bundler for JavaScript with a roll up compatible API. Pretty funny. I haven't used it. I get a kick out of every single time Rust is used to solve a JavaScript problem. It brings me joy. Not Gleam? I don't know about Gleam. I haven't had the chance to really play around with it. I have played with both Kotlin. I made an Android app with Kotlin, and it was enjoyable. I used to do a decent amount of Swift. I actually did a decent amount of Swift on Linux. I actually like Swift. It's not perfect. I think Rust is better than it in its static analysis and memory safety. But I liked Swift. I really I don't know enough about Gleam. Like I know what it is, but I don't know enough about it to really, like I said, no, I hadn't seen this. We can do a Gleam. If people would love to see Gleam, I'd love to do a Gleam stream. I'd love to do a Gleam stream. If people are like interested in it and want to just a stream where I'm just figuring stuff out, I'll probably read the docs before I do the stream. Just so that I'm not like, let's read the docs. Unless if you guys would like me to just do a stream of reading the Gleam docs, I could do that. But I could also do a stream where I try to write some code based off of reading the docs first. We have a security thing. Security's already over Cypher. Uh-oh. Mentlify. Let's read this. We have a security thing. And then we got to talk about DBoss. Okay, so we had two things brought up by the community here. This one is a full stack cross-platform lightning fast fully typed. It's a Rust library for building apps that run on desktop, web, mobile, and more. This is interesting. I had not heard of it. I have not heard of it. I write a lot more services. I don't do a lot of like desktop web app stuff. So, yeah. So this is like a Xamarin. Is that Xamarin the thing that was like all cross-platform that Microsoft bought? I think it was Xamarin. I don't really remember. This is almost an Xamarin for Rust. This could be really cool though if we want to make one of our apps like the Twitch app. I know that we're putting a TUI on our Twitch chat and stuff. The integrations. Maybe we could make an actual UI with it with this. Interesting. Let's talk about the incident report. Incident report for March. So if you guys are using Mintify, there's an incident report. Let's read over it. Let's judge it for how good it is. On March 1st, received an email raising concerns. Okay, so this is March 17th. So timeline, pretty good. About a security for our endpoints. Wait. This was released on March 13th. Okay. So that means they took about 2 weeks to release this. Okay. Prompted us to rake through our logs and discovered unusual requests to our servers originating from an unrecognized device. This is interesting. This is potentially terrifying too. Some third-party person, they don't say who emailed. We'll see if they say who emailed. This is a little terrifying. That possibly somebody outside there. Anyways. Alarmingly, we noticed that some of these requests targeted sensitive API endpoints and were successful in their attempts. This unusual activity indicated that the actor behind these requests had permission of our private admin access token, granting them unauthorized access to our endpoints. We received confirmation that GitHub tokens stored within our database were used to access a customer's repository. While we do not have evidence of any other such instances, we cannot confirm that there is no such instances occurred. All right, this right here is why traceability is so important. The fact that they have to come out, this is egg on their face to say we cannot confirm that no other such instances have occurred, which means they don't know well enough of what happened on their own network. They don't have the traceability to do that. This is pretty bad. I'm not saying that there's not a ton of companies that can't do that. There's probably a ton of companies that can't do that. But this is pretty scary, and they probably should work on rectifying this. Let's see if they have a I want to say a rectification log, like the steps that they're taking because I'd like to see this better. I think that this is a important thing. You'll see companies like Cloudflare, where Cloudflare will come out and say we can confirm that none of these things were touched. And that's a pretty important thing to be able to do. We took immediate action by revoking all GitHub action tokens, good, rotating our admin access tokens, good, and implementing stringent security measures to all of our APIs to mitigate any further unauthorized access. Additionally, we have patched the vulnerability that led to the exposure of our admin access token. Oh, good, they have a timeline. I was about to say, we need a timeline. We have also partnered with a third-party cybersecurity vendor to conduct an extensive investigation and have implemented other security measures to ensure that this type of unauthorized access cannot occur again. For the security of our users, we decided to implement those security measures before making this public announcement. I don't know about this statement. Timeline. All timestamps are referenced in PDT. Russell says, I would guess there are more companies that can't than can. I agree, Russell. I agree. Okay, so I called them out, and maybe I unduly called them out because this is probably true of a lot of companies. And so maybe I'm unjustly calling them out. And my example company was a company that deals with security. You know, Cloudflare, a lot of their stuff is security. So maybe that's not fully fair, but I think it's important. I think it's important and people don't think about it. And I'd like people to think about it. I'd like people to think, hey, if there was somebody that did something, could I tell you what they did? Because that's important. It's important to know what they did. Even if you didn't stop them from doing it, being able to know what they did in your system is important, and I don't think people think about it as much. It's maybe unfair to call them out on this because it's probably true that there's a lot of companies that can't do it. There's a lot of companies doing a bad job about it. I guess I just don't want to be. I don't want people to think I was saying that this is the standard. It should be the standard. Let me be real. It should be the standard. Everybody should do it. But yeah, I don't know. Let's do a stream on traceability. Let's do a stream on traceability. 100%. Let's. It's probably actually multiple streams. It's probably a lot of streams. Let's do a lot of streams on traceability. I think that there's the easy, and then there's like you can add layers on as your architecture gets more complicated. There's layers of how to ensure that. Yeah, and have your like your audit log and stuff all up to date. So let's do it. Let me add that to my live learning. We'll do a live learning on distributed systems. Okay, cool. We'll do it. All timestamps reference are in. Okay. Friday, we should the email right again. This, I have to assume that this was not an internal email. Because if it was an internal email, they would have said, we found out internally, our teams internally found this thing, but we received an email raising concerns about the security of our endpoints potentially leaking our token. This means some third-party researcher that didn't want to be named, let them know. Or maybe they weren't a researcher. Maybe it was an engineer that just found it. But discovered logs. Okay, so about an hour later, this is not bad. Discovered logs of an unrecognized device accessing API endpoints. This right here, you should have stuff that blocks this. Well, it says logs of an unrecognized device accessing API. I don't actually know what that means. I thought that they were meaning an unrecognized device on their network, which should be blocked. But I don't know what this means. Maybe everything is a recognized device. I don't know what Mintify does, honestly. So maybe they know everything that hits their API. I mean, within 2 hours, they revoked all things. This is good. This means that they took action, potentially painful action, quickly. They acted quickly on it. They did it again. Interesting. Oh, okay. Look at this. Continued to stay in close contact with a bug bounty reporter, patched the vulnerability that resulted in the leak of our access token, and revoked and rotated tokens again. So basically, they didn't fix the thing that was leaking and revoked all of their keys. They didn't fix it. They just said, okay, the person out there will have to get a new key. They rotated the internal stuff to be extra safe. They enhanced some security, but then they actually fixed the thing and then did the whole lock again. Okay. They received a penetration test? Did they penetrate? I don't know. They don't say what happened from that. Okay, huh. I mean, it seems fine. It seems fine. It seems like what you could probably expect. What does Mentalify do? What are they in charge of? Okay. They're not like a security company. If this was a security company, I would have a bunch of worries here. So what I was going to say is, if they were a security company, the fact that this happened where they had to redo their key tokens. But if this isn't a security company, which it's not, this kind of makes sense to me. They're not security professionals. And so what they did was they tried to do their best. They worked with a security professional. And once the security professional was confident, they redid the revoking of their keys. I think that this is good. And they're basically laying open. I'm not a security person, but I can see that they obviously didn't know themselves of the security implications of it. So that's good. It's building documentation from your Git repos. Okay. You guys are going on about, I don't know how, every time we do this stream, we get on a tangent about Datadog pricing every single time. It happens. The thing that surprises me most about, I could go on about Datadog pricing. Datadog pricing actually confuses the tar out of me, which is why I think it's so expensive, is because it's really hard to know what you're going to pay. All right. So let's talk about DBoss. What is DBoss? What is DBoss and why am I excited about it? Transactional serverless computing. What does that mean? I didn't know, so I had to read more about it. Now, if you don't know who's working behind this, the creator of Postgres is actually the one behind this. And this is actually kind of a take on Kubernetes itself. DBoss is a revolutionary serverless software platform rooted in research from MIT and Stanford. It's a fault-tolerant TypeScript code execution made easy. Now, I don't love TypeScript, and so I'm not going to sit here and say that DBoss is the end-all be-all, but I think that it has some very interesting things. It's basically a database for your code that has transactional serverless computing. Basically, you can store your code in a database, and when somebody hits that endpoint, it will execute the code at that endpoint. So basically, it allows you to do pure serverless on a server. The DBoss is the server, which then it's not really serverless. Anyways, you get the point. It's actually a really cool thing. I'm gonna throw this down in the chat because I'm actually working my way through some of the white papers that have that powered this. So yeah, I think it's a really cool thing. It's basically a transactional platform for your TypeScript that has an execution engine for it. So it's almost like, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? I've got a way of explaining it. It is a pure storage procedure application framework. Your application is purely storage procedures. Your database and execution layer become one. They become one. And they use TypeScript. Okay, that's the terrifying part. It's almost have you guys seen Spacetime DB? It's almost like Spacetime DB. I've seen more of these coming up. It's an interesting trend that I'd like to keep an eye on and like to play around with. Now, I don't A part of me says it's interesting. A part of me says that I'm a little terrified and that it's a terrible idea. Those two things can coincide, okay? They're not mutually exclusive. Because they're happening doesn't mean that they're a good idea. It doesn't mean that they're a bad idea either. And I really don't like hype-driven development. And I say this because I don't say these things because I'm trying to hype up DBoss, because I'm not. That's not my goal. My goal is to share new things that are coming out, and that's what I'm doing. I do think that you should think about these things critically as an engineer. What does it mean for you and your team? How does your team operate? And those types of things. I do think as we explore cloud technologies, it's a very interesting topic for us because these are one of the things we want to learn. How do we do code execution at scale? And we have a method that we're doing for the Null Cloud right now. Maybe there's a better way to do it in the future. I don't know. But our goal is to learn about them. So I think we're going to do a deep dive on how DBoss works and some of the things powering it because it's interesting. It looks a little bit similar to temporal. Agreed, Cypher. Transactional environment for your TypeScript sounds scarily similar. It's not decentralized though. Russell, it's kind of blockchain, not decentralized. I don't know if that makes sense. Centralized blockchain. Some blockchain person just died, lost their wings. I said centralized blockchain. It hurt them to their soul. Block link. All right. We have a very sad news for open source that we need to cover. I'm sorry. I'm starting to rush through some of these things because I know it's been a long news stream and I said a lot of stuff happened. We're not even done yet. And so I can't sit there. I actually had more to go on DBoss, but there's not time. It's interesting. I want us to explore it more, but we don't have time because there's something that very sad happened. Some of you might have seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's very important for you if you're in a cloud native solution, because if you run a application that requires persistent storage on Kubernetes, you've probably used this project. And this project has now been quite unfortunately retired by the CNCF. Now, it's actually very interesting because it doesn't mean that the project doesn't have active contributors. But as all of you probably know at this point, OpenEBS has been archived by the CNCF. Now, I only came across this Friday. So I should have done maybe an emergency news section on Saturday. I didn't have the time to do the emergency news section on Saturday. I'm sorry about that. But let's talk about OpenEBS. Cypher, archiving does not keep you from forking it, right? Let's get into it. As of this last week, OpenEBS by the CNCF was archived. And this is a pretty sad and honestly kind of heartbreaking scenario for the people involved. Because the fact is, it didn't die because there weren't people working on it. It died because it failed to be a good CNCF project. It died because, or did it die? Did it die? I'm using the wrong word. It was archived by the CNCF. Let's follow the story. OpenEBS, lessons we learned from open source. After 4 years, our project was archived by the CNCF. Our experience provides valuable lessons for any corporation getting started with open source. Now, I think maybe a correction, after I have already read this, is that it's more of getting started with open source inside the CNCF, or maybe any open source incubator. There's others, the Apache Foundation. There are others than the CNCF. And And so maybe this is an important thing for people that are getting into open source, that are donating their code to the CNCF or another open source incubation place and a group. There's actually a terminology that just escaped my mind for this, so fantastic job, Merrick. Anyways, OpenEBS is a data storage fabric for Kubernetes, enabling Kubernetes containers to access storage anywhere in the cluster and automatically providing resilience such as self-healing storage, replicated volumes, cloning, and snapshots. Without OpenEBS, containers are limited to local node storage or another storage provider. Because of its usefulness, between 5,000 and 1 million people use OpenEBS every day. Or, I mean, it's pulled, images are pulled. It doesn't mean there's that many people using it every day, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So then they go into their lessons. Okay, so Data Core Software is the group that made OpenEBS, or acquired the OpenEBS technology. Our experience with OpenEBS, which started as a cloud-native sandbox project, and after 4 years, ended with our project being archived by the CNCF, provides valuable lessons for any corporation getting started with open source. Lesson 1. Understand the purpose behind your open source. Unless you're a large company with unlimited resources, most mid-sized companies measure their investment by return on investment, initiatives that provide a tangible payback. This forms a natural tension with open source. Do you rush to monetize it? Do you acknowledge you're investing in a community that has a longer-term benefit with less measurable return on investment? For us, we didn't know. This was our first time. OpenEBS was a CNCF project with about 350 contributors, but 90% of the code was written by core data developers. So the CNCF one does not like this. The CNCF wants multiple companies to work on a project. They don't want it to be the whole outlook of it to be one company. That's part of their thing for being a project. And as you graduate, they actually have requirements for how many large companies are contributing to it. A storage fabric is based on orchestrating data stored on physical blocks on a disk. It is a low-level rocket science, and each component takes years to develop. To maintain momentum, you need a dedicated team to build these low-level components. It is not easy to source expertise and time commitment from the community. This is true. This is 100% true. Even if I had the knowledge to contribute to this, and I hope something that I have conveyed with the database that we've been building is that just having the knowledge doesn't make it easy to jump into these things. These components and the roadmaps and how they all fit together take a lot of time and effort to think about. Even as we've talked about it, how we change our index could change how we store data on disk and vice versa. And the decisions on how we store data on disk could change how we do indexes or how those indexes play with that data. And so this is very important. And it's not easy to get the expertise or just people with the data, the experience to do it. Okay, so let's go on. Lesson 2, be true to who you are. Some people believe all software should be free. Some people believe all software should be paid for. Maybe the answer is in the middle. Open source and proprietary software should be at a place together in tomorrow's companies. Individuals and companies should have a choice. For us, our truth, our purpose is to be the driving force behind OpenEBS, ensuring its popular Kubernetes data storage project is lightning fast, fully featured, enterprise grade, and always free. At the same time, we provide a commercial option for companies that need support and enterprise integrations. This sounds simple, but it took us years to understand this purpose. One of the challenges with open source is that commercialization is a dirty word. One of the challenges with proprietary software is that open source is a dirty phrase. As a community, we need to get past this. I completely agree with this. I agree with this sentiment. I live kind of in the middle, and I get hate from both sides for it. Life after archival. The OpenEBS project was archived by the CNCF. You can read the CNCF statement here. We'll go to that in just a second. What's not clear for many people is what happens after this. For us, we still have 20 people working on the project. We're still answering questions on Slack channels and GitHub. People are still using OpenEBS and contributing code. The biggest difference is that the CNCF project lifecycle provides a future, a guarantee that projects will continue. I'm going to disagree with this statement. CNCF has just proven in their actions that the life cycle doesn't guarantee that. They just archived something that was part of the CNCF. That means that by their own admission, by their own statement, this is not true. The CNCF does not guarantee that. The CNCF guarantees certain things about their projects, but not that they will continue on forever. This is not the first archival. This is not the first project to die in the CNCF. When people are using an open source project, invest years in their lives, and base their software on an open source project, they are depending on it and need to know it will continue. A CNCF sandbox, incubating, or graduated project provide this certainty. Does not. They were an CNCF sandbox project. An archive project does not. That is probably true. As a project, we have a duty to every person who contributed to code to OpenEBS, every person who based their own software on OpenEBS, every person who believed in us. As a project, we acknowledge we wrote great code, but didn't run a good CNCF compliant project. This is true. They didn't. They didn't hold to all the CNCF compliance things. These are the things that the CNCF tries to guarantee. They don't guarantee that even a graduated project will continue in perpetuity. They don't have the resources for that. It's what people are working on. It's open source. What they can guarantee is that they're running a CNCF compliant project, which is something they didn't do, which is what we're going to get to. And this is a great thing. Both are essential. They focused on the code, but they didn't focus on being a good CNCF compliant. Now, we can go over to the CNCF. This is the archival. I can post this too. So, you guys can go through and read through this. There was a lot of complaints about the health of the project. We can go over them. Some were the length of issues open. They had issues that stayed open for a long period of time because they didn't have a ton of health. The CNCF doesn't like this. The CNCF wants you to be closing issues. They had issues that were being closed by a bot that they didn't like as well. That they wanted a human to be going over and triaging them. They had only one major company contributing to it. Their company was the only main one, and their company was the full leadership. The CNCF wants at least two companies to be the main leaders of a project. If it doesn't, that doesn't have the CNCF support. So there was actually a lot of things that the CNCF wanted, and this project failed to maintain. They did not. One of the things was not a lack of contribution. It was the lack of multiple companies contributing. So you guys can go through and read all of this. I left you the link to it. I think it's kind of sad. I don't know of a better resolution to this. These people, if it had been me, if I had been a voting person here, on the leadership here, I would have either been, I would probably have abstained. I probably would have been abstained. It would be difficult. But they had quite a few in favor of archiving it. Jordan, thank you for the raid. Thank you for the raid. We're doing our news right now. We're talking about the CNCF. How was your stream, Jordan? You talked about Devin? What are your thoughts on Devin? Well, Jordan, I've just put you on a list to, I just followed you, to try to check out your news stream. Do you stream next Sunday? I'll watch the past one. Yeah, I was going to say Devin is actually just all powerful is the conclusion. And it just takes so much energy, electricity, that it's actually cheaper to hire humans because that's what they're doing. They're hiring engineers, software engineers. Yeah. All right, so that's OpenEBS. What do you guys think? Are you going to still use OpenEBS? Do you guys use OpenEBS? Yeah, Cypher, I probably would have been an abstain. It's a hard call because, like, I understand. I actually understand both sides. The CNCF wants multiple companies involved, and they don't want a single company driving a project. They actually have that in their core thing. But it's not necessarily EBS's fault, OpenEBS's fault, that it doesn't have other companies that are interested in helping on it. That's not necessarily its fault. I mean, it can be its fault, but that nobody actually said that they thought that it was OpenEBS's fault or the company. So it's a really hard thing. And OpenEBS is one of the only things to do this type of thing itself. So to be clear, OpenEBS is the project hasn't been archived. I don't know if or when they'll do that. My assumption is that this OpenEBS won't be because it's not in the CNCF anymore, effectively. That will be my assumption. So, anyways, I thought that was pretty big news. I wanted to talk to you guys about it, let you know that it was going on. There was quite a bit of it got heated. I respect also the engineers that have put so much work into it and didn't get more heated. If I had put that much of my life in it and the CNCF just decided to do it, I probably would have been a whole lot angry. Like, I'm sure that they're angry. I'm sure that they're angry and they were respectful, at least the stuff that I saw. So I want to give them kudos for that. If I was voting, I would have been an abstain because it's a hard call. Abstain. Not. Did this change? Does the list change? I feel like the abstain was in the middle. One second. Let's reload this page and see if the abstain changed. Does the list changes? I didn't know the ordering of these would change did anybody know that? Am I just the only person that did not know this? The order of these changes? There was a lot of votes against, by the way. And not all of these were just the developers. These are people that don't get it. Like, these are the people that only matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else votes. This is just like a show of support. But anyways. Okay, so for all of you that sympathize with Russell's statement, there are so many products that map looks like the 1 million pixel image. I think you guys will like my Kubernetes video coming out. I think you'll like it. It's meant to be fun. Let me know if you don't like it, because what I'm trying to do is I do a lot of educational stuff, and I'm doing some things that aren't educational that are meant to be fun videos to help people find the channel, to have the educational content. So we'll see if you guys like it or not. People might hate it. I mean, there will be people that hate it, but because I have a little bit of fun at Kubernetes expenses. But I'm going to do it with Rust too, just so everybody knows I like these things. All right, let's run through some other things. There was a couple things in open source other than OpenEBS that are probably worth noting. And yeah, let's talk about them really quickly. Crates.io download changes. Uh-oh. Some changes. All right. So, like the rest of the Rust community, Crates.io has been growing rapidly, with download and package counts increasing 2 to 3 times year over year. This growth doesn't come without problems, and we had to... So, this isn't a policy change like you might have expected. This is literally just... There's been some slow downloads from Crates.io, and they're making it faster. So, over the last year, they will start to download directly from static Crates.io CDN servers. So this is a really cool thing because it doesn't actually affect you. They have set it up in such a way where the majority of you will start pulling from these CDN servers directly, and this is going to alleviate a lot of the issue. So while how and why you download is changing, it doesn't actually affect you. It does affect you if you're using non-canonical downloads. They're not going to support that through the new CDN because that would be harder. Most people don't. And they expect it to significantly improve the reliability and speed. So you should be seeing that. If you do use non-canonical downloads, which they have deprecated in this, you're in hot doo-doo. So don't do that. Don't do it. In other big news in open source, I'm going to be doing a stream with ChainGuard in the near future. I do like the things that ChainGuard is doing. But ChainGuard images used to only be available from ChainGuard at a weird URL. I personally like the weird URL, so you're not using Docker Hub. But they're also going to be available on Docker Hub. So if you've been wanting to use ChainGuard and maybe your company has a policy that you're only allowed to get stuff from Docker Hub, which would be a weird policy, but whatever. If that's the case, you can now get them from Docker Hub, which is really cool. I honestly think you should probably be using ChainGuard images if you're releasing an open source one. But I'll get more into that with my stream with ChainGuard that's in the near future. So yeah, you know, I'll be letting you know when that's actually scheduled. We're in the works of planning. It should be a fun stream. Okay. Akamai offers proof of concept and open policy agent to block Kubernetes bug. I'm going to put this in the comments. Akamai has offered security teams a proof of concept YAML file and an open policy agent rule for blocking a high severity vulnerability in Kubernetes that was originally passed late last year. So there you go. Moving on. Okay, why this is important. The only mitigation available truly to mitigate the issue is to patch to 128.3. Okay, so the reason this open policy agent is that if you can't be up on 128.3, you probably need to look at this proof of concept mitigation of the issue, or patch to 128.3. So if you're pre 128.3, you need to be looking at resolving it or patching to 128.3. That's the big news there. That's why this is important, this open policy agent rule. That's why it's important. So if you're running Kubernetes, check it out. AMD makes HIP ray tracing libraries open source, allowing easier integration into games and apps. I don't know. I don't use it, but it's open source news. So there you go. All right. Let's talk about, we have 3 things that are in the cloud news that I thought were worthwhile. One could have affected you guys. Incident report on GitHub. GitHub was down for almost 2 days. 2 days. You can see that it started at March 12th and it ended on March 13th. I say almost 2 days. It felt like almost 2 days. Maybe it wasn't almost 2 days. It felt really, really long. Anyways, on average, 20% of pull request page loads were out of sync, and up to 30% of pull requests were impacted at peak. So it wasn't a full outage, but it definitely was enough that it was felt across the board. A lot of people felt it. So there was issues with their pull request system, and I think that they had been using. I think they were saying that Copilot was now writing the pull request system. I don't know. AI company, my foot. All right, let's move on. Elastic Metal. Okay, look, Scaleway Labs, I love you, but don't put Elastic in your name. That is what AWS does. It's Elastic Kubernetes service. It's Elastic Compute service. They put Elastic. Don't do it. Don't try to copy them. Go back to Marketing School 101. Don't call it Elastic, please. Just don't do it. But I love RV1 Metal instances. It's the world's first RISC-V servers available in the cloud. This is actually really cool, and they ruined it with Elastic in the name. So they're not VMs, they're actually Metal servers, and they're all RISC-V. This is actually pretty cool, so nice job, Scaleway Labs. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's worth giving them a shout out. Just don't call it Elastic. And the last thing is now available free data transfer out to internet when leaving Azure. So the big thing that all the clouds are doing, because the clouds are doing it, and we talked about Google doing it, if you're closing your account with Azure, they won't charge you for egress fees. You have to close your account first, though, which is still asinine and stupid, and it's stupid. Yeah, Russell, I'm sorry. I know that I'm speeding through these things. There was just so much to go over that happened this week, and I didn't want to miss any of the important stuff. You know how many things I decided not to talk about? A lot of things. 7. You guessed 7 things? You got me. Just 7 things. Exactly 7. And Russell's also a clairvoyant. All right. So I'm going to do some morning streams this week. I want to do, there are 3 things that I want to cover that I'm going to do some morning streams for. First is this, Complexity Bad, an interview with HTMX creator. So I've actually been tweeting with Carson on Twitter about HTMX. Obviously, we disagree. And Carson is super intelligent. So makes me feel bad disagreeing. It has a lot of really good points. And I have loved the interchange. I want to go over this. I haven't read it, but I figure it's probably pretty good. Another one is Cap is good, actually. You guys know that I've been a little critical of Cap because Cap kind of falls short. Cap isn't well defined enough, and I did a whole stream on Cap and why it's not good enough. So I kind of want to read this, why this person says this, because I kind of feel like I'm at odds with them, but that should make a good article. We might learn something new. And then the last article that we need to talk about is 6 reasons why developer platforms fail. This is released by the CNCF. Again, have not read it, but I'm kind of excited too. And I thought I'd read with you guys. Yeah. So anyways, I'm going to do these in the morning US time. I don't know exactly when yet, but they'll be short streams just to cover some of these things. So I'm going to shoot for about an hour-long stream, maybe around noon for I say EU, like Spain, British EU time. So yeah. Is one of those reasons the complexity of Kubernetes? What reasons? Raj, what's the breaking news that I want to talk about? What is it? What did I miss? What did I miss? There was so much. What more did I miss? Was it today? Was it today? Raj, did I miss it? Did I miss it? Oh, you missed it. You missed it. Okay? I think this right here says I talked about it. I love you, Raj, by the way. I'm teasing you like a brother from another mother. That was weird to say that way. My apologies. But yes, we did cover it. Grok is open source now. As of what, 3 hours ago? It was 3 hours when we covered it, 4 hours now. So we covered it about an hour ago, Raj. There was so much this week. I agree that it was so easy to miss something. I expected to have missed something this week, but it is out there. You know what? If we can run this locally, we make sure to download the checkpoint. Should we try this on a stream? A machine with enough GPU memory is required to test the model with the example code. How much memory is that? They don't say. They don't say. Okay, I'm gonna try to Google. I'll do this on stream. Grok the answer. Wait. Can I just grok it on Twitter? How do I use Grok? How do I use Grok? One second, just so I don't accidentally dox myself. Oh, I have to have a premium account, don't I? I don't have a premium account. I only have a cheapskates X account. Right? You have to have a premium. Raj, actually, Gronk. No, dude. No, dude. You're talking about Gronk. Have you ever seen The Emperor's New Groove? Okay. This is The Emperor's New Groove, and this guy is Gronk. This guy's Gronk. This is Gronk. No, is it Kronk? It might be Kronk, not Gronk. No, yeah, it is Kronk. Never mind. I'm wrong. I just brought an Emperor's New Groove up for the fun, the kicks and giggles. I was thinking it was Gronk. Worst newscast yet. Worst newscast yet. Okay. Well, serves me right. Yeah, so I cannot access this. Check this out for you. I can't ask Grok how much because I don't have a premium plus subscription. So if one of you have a premium plus subscription and would like to tell me how much GPU memory I need to be able to run it, please let me know because I have no idea. I have no idea. The Emperor's new AI. Okay. We need to open an animation studio now. All right. I know that news went long. Like I said, there's articles I didn't even get to cover that we're going to cover throughout the week in the morning. So that being said, I hope there's going to be quite a few streams coming up throughout this week. Hopefully I can get to them all and maintain my sanity. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today, and I hope that this news helps you throughout the week. Thank you, Raj, for bringing news. Again, I really appreciate it if you guys bring stuff that I might have missed. It's really actually valuable. So I know I was teasing you a little bit, but I actually appreciate that you try to bring that up. It's fantastic when you guys bring it up. So together we can cover all of the news, hopefully. So, all right. Well, have yourselves a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing you guys